All right, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to Quick Sticks. Matt, James, and Sam back as always. How we doing, boys?
Good, good.
Well, man.
Ready to rock? We have a very special guest tonight with us, PLL referee Danny Dlugozima. Danny, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, guys. I'm really excited to be here. Anything that Bryce Snead does, I try to do better. That's one of my rules to live by. So happy to be here. Happy to make him look bad. So
hell yeah.
thanks again.
Poor Bryce gets more flack from this podcast than he ever has
100%. He did say the Cannons are in a rebuilding year and they've won 4 games, but it doesn't matter.
We're not going to talk about that.
All right. So just for a little bit of background, Danny was my goalie in college and had the pleasure of trying to coach me when I was a freshman in college. So Matt and Sam, you can only imagine how easy that was. I was not arrogant. I listened to everything he told me.
Yeah, okay.
Now we're here. Now he's a referee. So Danny, quick kind of background questions about first, like, when did you get into lacrosse? How long have you been a referee? And like, why'd you want to become a ref?
Yeah, so started playing lacrosse in 5th grade. I grew up in upstate New York. My old man was big into it. Actually, the same reason why I became a ref. I think you'll see, at least at the younger ages, a lot of guys who start reffing are legacy guys. So father, mother, somewhere along the line, someone's been an official, whether it's lacrosse or another sport. So he basically got me into it as soon as I could drive. So I'm 33 now. I've been reffing for 17 years, which is not, I don't think that's normal. Not a lot of 16-year-old kids are like, yeah, let me go get yelled at by a bunch of parents who have no idea what's going on. So obviously, certainly would not be where I am without him.
Wow.
Shout out to my dad. But yeah, I mean, it's fun. I know we have a list of questions here, but I encourage anybody who enjoys the game of lacrosse to pick up reffing, because we need guys everywhere. It doesn't matter where you are. Your area definitely needs refs. So if you have the time and want to get out and help the game, by all means.
Absolutely great.
Oh yeah,
great answer. So this is like kind of more of a fun question to start with, and I'm not sure if you guys wear Apple Watches or Fitbits or what have you, but like, do you know how many miles you run on a given game day?
Yeah, so I don't wear. I used to wear an Apple Watch. I don't anymore. But the most I ever ran was 7 miles. It was like a 4 overtime game, college game. But yeah, so I think on average, so guys who do wear them, like 3 to 4. Okay. Maybe 5 if it's a lot.
Right.
Yeah, 7 one time. That was tough. But we do the All-Star game. Actually, I wish I should have won one there, because they stuck me on the single side the whole game, and I mean they didn't play much defense, so I was just running back and forth,
running up and down. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm sure Matty P averages about 6 because he has to go run and yell in guys' faces, which we obviously love that part of him.
That's the only time he runs too. So
taking swings at the balls. I like that. So the next one is pretty easy, but I think it's the question everyone's curious about. What's different about refereeing in the PLL versus Division I lacrosse? What are some of the biggest differences?
So I think rules. I mean, I guess that's kind of a stupid way to answer that, but I think the way that the PLL rulebook is set up, it's very similar to, how every men's league across the country is set up. Like, we don't want to see a lot of man up, man down. Like, we want the guys to do whatever they can do without, someone dying or someone having a severe disadvantage taken away. I think that's why, like, when you watch the games and the guy like gets tackled and you're like, oh my God, what is that going to be? And it's like 30 seconds. Like,
yeah. I've noticed that. I've wondered if you guys, I mean, I love it as a fan, but I'm always like, wow, that's a hold.
Yeah. So
100%.
It's so it's a lot different. It's a lot different. I think that it's a lot more, like, this is my first year doing it, and I think it's a lot more challenging because of that. Like, I think it's a lot easier to step onto a Division I field and be like, okay, like, we're gonna, even if we were calling it loose that day, like, it's not like the PLL loose where it's just like, I'm not even too sure. I think he should be arrested. There,
Yeah, I mean, I'm a KL fan. Jack Rowlett definitely deserves to be in the box a little more.
Yeah,
I'll admit that. 100%.
Absolutely.
Okay, easy, water dog.
But it's good. I mean, it's entertaining. It's what the game, it's what that level of lacrosse needs. So I think it makes sense. But
yeah,
I mean, I get plenty of texts from my buddies at the collegiate level all the time. They're like, "How is that not anything?" I'm like, "I don't know, man. Like
I don't know.
As fans, we love it. Honestly, it keeps the game going, moving, and
yeah.
Oh, that's great. So it's kind of like the same question, but it's about the rules and how different has this huge 32-second rule been for you reffing? We talked about it on the pod a couple times. I think some of us like it, some of us don't. I'm actually the opinion that I do love the new 32-second rule after faceoffs, but what is it like been reffing? Like, that's a massive change to make, especially in your first year in the PLL.
Yeah, so reffing wise, I don't think it's really changed anything for us, except for, I guess, on the faceoff now that they're making all these personnel changes, which you could have probably 6 podcast episodes on that alone. But yeah, I mean, reffing wise, it really hasn't changed anything except for the fact that, like when, I don't want to name names obviously, but like when a star player goes up there to face off, you can't just let them, get the crap beat out of them. So
you've seen that.
I think we're more aware of that. Like if they're gonna lose in a way that's safe for everybody.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, other than that, not too difficult to ref. I don't know. It seems, I mean, I follow Lax Twitter and it seems like people are pretty up in arms about it. So I am interested to see if it stays or if it goes.
Yeah, I mean, just to get the hot take out of the way, I think it's insane that teams like the Atlas are like complaining that they have too many possessions, but they can't do anything with it. Like, that's not the league's problem. So that's my take on the 32-second rule. You still get the ball, do something with it, but Matt's got the next one.
Yeah, well, I think we could talk for 2 hours about the 32-second rule.
Yeah, so you dress a face-up guy. Like, shut up.
Oh, I know it's helped us, but it's.
I know.
That's why I'm not complaining. So speaking of rules, and I'm hoping you're okay to answer this, but what rule would you either add or existing rule would you edit to the current PLL rulebook?
Yeah, so I'm going to answer. I'm going to do it a different. Like, I'm going to answer which PLL rule I'd like to put in the NCAA book.
Okay.
Okay. Ooh, I like that.
I think the PLL book is like the PLL book because like that's what they want, and so like it's not. I don't know. Like for the lacrosse fan that likes to spend their Saturdays watching NCAA lacrosse, I think you got to kind of look at it like they're two different sports because the product on the field is a lot different. So one rule that I would like to see the NCAA adopt that we have in the PLL is not playing without your stick, or is not that rule. I think that rule is just crazy and provides a lot of confusion because the guys just don't even know what to do. They just kick the ball around. Yeah. It's like, why are you even trying this? Like, all you did was kick out of bounds. What benefit did you do to anybody there?
Yeah. But
I guess it's a box rule, so I guess that makes sense on that one. But a good rule that we have in the PLL is if a guy is like around the crease and there's just a little bit of pushing and shoving and he ends up in the crease, in the PLL, that's nothing.
Mm-hmm.
In NCAA, you're supposed to have something. It's like you can't have an offensive player in the crease. If he was in there illegally, then you have to have an interference on a defender.
Yep.
And in some situations, we kind of, don't see it because it doesn't impact the play of the game at all. It's like just the dude being a jerk.
Right.
But in the PLL, it's like, okay, we saw it and we're not going to do anything about it because it doesn't impact anything. A lot of the PLL rulebook was set up so that it's like, did it impact the play of the game?
Wow.
And if it doesn't, then we don't call it. And that's something that I think that, like little pieces like that where, I mean, I've had plenty of flags in games where someone calls me afterwards and like, what did you have? And then you tell them and you're like, oh, okay, that makes sense. But on TV, like you have no idea because you can't tell.
That's true.
So
I think Boyle complains or talks about this every weekend. He just says, why are we incentivizing defenders to essentially push players in the crease if sometimes, it's going to be a good thing for them. So I do like the rule as well. I think
we should make a PLL refs Twitter. And anytime Lax Twitter's bitching about a call, we'll just write, you weren't on the field, you don't know.
I like that.
Or it would go over well, I think.
And if not, it's like, That's good. Wow. Okay. I like that. Go ahead, Sammy.
All right. This is one I've been wanting to ask for a while. But does refereeing D1 face-offs? How does that differ? I guess from D1 to the PLL. Is it harder? I guess.
So yes and no, because again, we're looking for two different things. I mean, I think if you watch the clips, like there's plenty of PLL face-offs where, I mean, they're like hugging each other. I think there was one where, and this was actually the All-Star game, so this kind of doesn't count because we weren't calling much out there anyway. But the Milkman was going to bring him down, like he had him wrapped up. I was like, he's just like tackling him, and like, the fans were loving it, so it is what it is. But so like again, everything is Division I wise. It's just we look for stuff, like we have points of emphasis, we have stuff that we look for, and everything's just a lot more strict. Like the PLL, they use their heads a good bit, but it's kind of just like, all right, like until there's a defined advantage, we're just gonna let them fight it out. That's the key, I think. The PLL, like everything is like let the players figure it out.
Wow.
Whereas in NCAA, it's like, okay, if they do this, then we have to get it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like even if you were to just pull my clips, like there's plenty of stuff at the NCAA level. If you're like, how is this a violation here and not there? And it's like, well, we're just looking for different things. Is I guess the easiest way to answer it. And it's significantly more strict at the college level, but I think it's required. I think I don't know, they're two different ball games, but I think if we let college kids get away with what we let the PLL guys get away with, we'd have a lot less college lacrosse players and a lot more people in jail.
Anarchy.
Yeah.
I like that.
Wow. Matt, you want the next one?
Yeah. So we were curious, not that some of you guys, most of you guys need it, but what is if there is any training regimen for refereeing in the PLL? What's that like?
Yeah. So I think so this is kind of difficult because there's plenty of guys who are phenomenal referees who don't run well, but they've been doing it for 50 years and they have the best eyes and they understand how to anticipate things and they put themselves in the proper position because they know what's going to happen before it happens. But, by and large, like when you're coming up, you definitely have to be able to run. You have to be able to be in the right position. Like we always say, like it's always easier to make the call when you're in the right position. And it's always easier to sell the call when you're in the right position. So like if you're shut on an end line, if you're on the end line and you pick a team, there's a lot less of a chance the coach is going to give you hell for it if you're on the end line.
True.
As opposed to being, 10 yards out of position and where you're not. So, I mean, I think that the young, like there's a pretty strong, I use the word young freely here because I don't think 33 is very young, but there's a pretty strong young contingent of us at the college level. And I think we take the training aspect of it pretty seriously. Like we go pretty hard to get ourselves ready for, what the NCAA season takes in terms of, showing up every Saturday and running hard for 5 miles, albeit it's not, 5 miles straight. You're stopping and going and things like that. But yeah, I mean, it's a lot. It's definitely not something where we can just show up and walk on the field and do it. Like the guys, a lot of stretching. Some guys do some crazy stuff. I guess like the guns and everything now, like there's some good technology that some of the guys use. But I like to think that we take it pretty seriously. Maybe not as seriously as like the players do from a training perspective, but we're out there trying.
Yeah. I mean, it's also hard because every year we have so many big rule changes, like massive rule changes. So it's hard to keep up with. So speaking of rule changes, especially something that a lot of college lacrosse fans were upset about was the glove gate incident with Maryland. If you don't know, essentially Maryland called a glove check on a faceoff guy. And as someone who watched the game a lot, I want to know from a referee's perspective, I guess, what did you think of the move? What did you think of the call? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I think that like a lot of officiating is the gray, and there's black and white, and the book is black and white, but a lot of what we do is the gray. And per the black and white, what they did on the field was the right thing to do. And I think that if you ask a number of people out there, they would have found the gray and, worked it out through the gray. Right. But that's what, I mean, I'll say this, the officiating crew that was on that game is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Better than I am. Probably more NCAA championship weekends between them than I've ref games.
Yeah.
So like that's a caliber of guy that knows what's going on. And I think that maybe the biggest takeaway for me is just from like a spectator point of view. Like you never know who's on that game. And I always laugh because like, well, at the high school level, sometimes when playoffs come, like we'll get 3 guys who do Division I playoffs on a game. And if you ask the parents how we did, they'd be like, these were the worst refs we've ever seen.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't think you even know who these guys are. Like this, you've never had better refs on your games.
Yeah.
And
no idea.
So I think that's just, an interesting outside perspective. But at the end of the day, like, I mean, I'm not going to say whether or not I would have done what was done in the field, but by the book, what they did on the field was absolutely in their line of.
So that's an actual rule. What they went against of having the matching gloves, that is an absolute black and white rule in the rule book.
Yeah. So yes, it is. It's the same as it's in the same rule as, and you should remember this because Sonny used to make us wear the same color undershirt. But you have to have the same color undershirt. You have to have the same majority colored gloves. You have the same majority colored helmets. It's in there. There's some caveats in there. Like if you were to look at it, like you'll find them. There's caveats in there regarding safety.
Yeah.
So hypothetically, if the coach says, "Hey, it's a different glove because of a safety issue,"
that's different. Got it.
Okay. Got it, man.
Right.
And maybe if he says that, the whole thing doesn't blow up like it does. So like there's levels to this for sure.
100%. 100%.
Interesting.
But it made for an interesting rest of the season.
Oh yeah.
For the coaches before the games and being like, "Hey, what do you think?" "Oh, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it."
There's that question of like, when did he think about it? That's what everyone was wondering. Like, did he see in the first quarter, put it in his back pocket and say, "Hey, if we need a possession late, I'm going to pull this card," or did he just ask for a stick check and was like, "Oh, the glove as well"? So that's really right. So, but he can always do, deniable plausibility, all that. So that's
and I know a lot of people aren't happy with how the coach handed it afterwards on. It's in the rules, man. It's in the rules.
It was sometimes your response to those situations is what people judge you on, and I think you have been more forthcoming about like, "Hey, man, like you knew this, and you pulled your card when you had it." But as I always say, the fact that we're having arguments on Twitter about a NCAA college ruling means the game's growing. It means people care. I mean, I know some people don't like all the bad banter about 32-second rules and Glovegate, but I think it's good for the sport. It means us as fans care enough to go to the internet and complain about it. So I think that speaks to the growth of the league. I got the next one. This is kind of a funnier one, but we came up with this between the 3 of us. Would you rather take a slap check from Tucker Durkin or stand in net for a shot from Romar Dennis?
Yeah, so I was actually also at the Sixes event when one of our guys got hit by Romar.
Oh yeah.
That's right.
And he wore it pretty good. So I think I'm taking Romar's shot because if my buddy could do it, then I think I could too. But so that was a lot of fun. We gave him a little bit of hell for that. I think he might have missed on purpose. He missed by like 30 yards. I mean, that was a horrendous shot.
It was. I mean, he has all that.
Like no deflection, which he tried to play off earlier, and he was like, "It was deflected." And we were like, "We're gonna watch the tape and come back to it."
It was not deflected, man. I'm sorry.
And what a tournament he had. He was absolutely unstoppable that whole week.
Yes, that was incredible. Sam and I were there. So wait, did you ref some of the Sixes games too?
All of them.
Oh, yeah. So how was that? We didn't have that on the questions, but I'm super curious because Sam and I loved it. There were some portions we didn't like. Some people didn't like the whole chase out rule, but the action, was so up and down. So what was it like reffing Sixes?
Yeah, so I've done I do some international stuff too. So I did the Sixes, the World Games that were in Birmingham. What was it, two summers ago? Yeah, 2 summers ago. And so the way that I present this to people is if you were to tell me you get to choose the game of lacrosse. So Sixes, box, field, PLL. You get to choose the rule book, and we're going to throw a dart at the wall to determine the level of play. So say youth, newcomers, college, Division I, PLL, whatever.
Yeah.
I would pick Sixes every time. because regardless of the level of play that dart lands on, we're going to have fun reffing sixes. Because it's a small field, ability wise. Like I did an event down in Florida, the PLL, which is the Pan American Lacrosse Association. So it was, I think Panama won. And so like relatively low caliber lacrosse, but it was a blast. Panama, it was like 21-20.
Wow.
And we're playing 8-minute quarters. So it was great. And so I love sixes for that reason. I think sixes is great for the growth of the game. I think that, I mean, this Olympic thing is a whole nother animal, but
yeah,
if we want, as a lacrosse society, someone other than the United States or Canada to ever win a world championship, the Olympics is the only way that's going to happen, because it's the only way that other countries are going to put athletes on the field that are worthy of beating us.
it's true.
So kind of, I mean, I don't even think this is on the list, but that's my take on sixes. I know a lot of people don't like it. I know a lot of people are true to the 10-on-10 game. I get the most enjoyment out of the NCAA games that we ref. I think that level of lacrosse is in a real good spot right now. Absolutely. Even though we change the rules every year and a half. But I think it's in a really good spot.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we need some rule changes. You know, Maryland got robbed. Everyone's
yeah.
Right. Like, there's always going to be somebody. Sam, you got the next one?
Yeah, sure. I think I came up with this question, but yeah, the caliber of player obviously coming into the PLL and reffing, like everybody's an All-American, Tour-Ton finalist. Does that make your job easier as a ref to just like be a referee in the game, like, you know, or does it make it a little bit harder because these guys are so good at lacrosse that they kind of can sneak stuff or try sneaky stuff, like, because they know you might not see it and you're looking at a bigger picture out there?
Yeah. So with every level, the speed is what makes it more difficult. So when you ref, if you start off and you're doing like your U10 stuff, you know, what makes it more difficult is you come up to like U15 is the kids are faster and they know the game more, so they can think better. And then that continues as you go from, you know, high school to varsity to college to Division I. And so there's that same jump that you'll see from going high school to college to Division I, you'll see going from Division I to the PLL. And that's really what makes it more difficult, is just because like it's as much of it is physical as a ref, like the mental side is what really wears you down. Yeah. And when it's that fast, you just don't have many breaks, you know, timeouts, and you were still even supposed to, you know, be alert when they're in timeouts. But so I mean, the ref in the PLL, it makes it easier to ref lower levels because the PLL is faster than the lower levels.
Yeah. Just
the speed. I mean, that's all it is. Like every time you move up a level, it's easier to ref the lower ones because the game just slow. I mean, it's anything in life. Sure. You know, you drive a car forever, all the cars slow down.
It's true. Yeah, it's a good point. I think every player we've had on, especially Asher, have all talked about the speed. They just said like making that jump as far as lacrosse skills. One thing that he just said, the speed is so different. Like the outlet passes are now a fast break in less than 2 or 3 seconds, just because, you know, Blaze and all those guys can really hit that far outlet at, you know, very high speed. And then the 10 yards in the middle of the field, that changes things. So that's interesting. We got to know, what's it like reffing with the one and only Matty P. Yeah. We are big fans. We think he should be mic'd up for every single game, every single one. I love how he breaks down his calls. You know, he doesn't deal with the players' BS. But what's it like reffing with him? Yeah, it's an experience. He's and I try to tell this to people who don't like understand. Like the way that he does it is different than anybody else ever has, and I think anybody else ever will. Because of who he was, because he's such a great player, and I think he's so well respected for being a great player, and now he's, you know, arguably one of the best guys to ever ref. And so to be on that high of a level in 2 avenues, I think gives him, you know, a lot of bragging rights, if you will. And so he can kind of, you know, you couple that with his personality, I think he can get away with a lot of things that regular people can't get away with. Absolutely.
But I mean, it's entertaining as hell. I love it.
Yeah.
I love that at the Sixes event, they had like 8 mics on them. So when our guy got hit with the ball, they had that clip, which has like 3 million views on
Yeah.
Instagram right now. I mean, he's amazing. Everything that he does is so entertaining. It's perfect for the PLL. I think they're going to have a hell of a time trying to find his replacement whenever that comes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which I mean, he lives for this, so I don't think it's going to be anytime soon. But
Yeah.
it's just not. It's just not something. I mean, I guess like Wes McCauley from the NHL, like he kind of has like his own style and way about him.
Right.
But I think it's just hard to. It's hard to find someone who can behave in that manner and not just infuriate everybody. Because that's exactly what would happen if anybody else did it.
It's true. It's a different way talking about too, and the players respect him too. That's a big difference. The players really respect him.
Well, they love him. I mean, even when he's in, like, and I don't know if they show this well, but like even when he gets into these like little tips with guys, it lasts for about 45 seconds, and afterwards they're all hugging and kissing and whatever. So it's all in good fun.
Yeah, of course. I think Maxie has a question about after games too.
Yeah, so I'm curious the social aspect. So I'm assuming you guys, when you travel for the games, are there for at least a few days. But after games, do the refs like stick together to do their own thing, or do you guys ever go out with the players?
Yeah, so we that's one of the big reasons. Like the camaraderie of officiating is one of the big reasons why guys join. It's one of the big reasons why guys stay with it for as long as they do. So we'll always go out. It doesn't matter, what game we're watching, reffing. Even if it's a local game at Pfeiffer's, say for me, like we'll still try to find some time to go hang out somewhere or just share a beverage in the parking lot. Because that's like a lot of the reason that's why we do it. It's not because we want to go get yelled at for 60 minutes. We want to hang out with our friends. So at the PLL level, we fly out sometimes morning of, it's a night game, sometimes the day before. We'll run into the players from time to time. Like at the All-Star game, the hotel was in an area where it just made like a lot of stuff within walking distance. So like in passing, we saw a couple guys. But we don't like set plans to go out with the players. We try to just keep to ourselves.
Sure. All right. This was technically Matt's question, but I'm gonna hijack it. Who talks the most shit in the PLL?
Yeah.
So that was that was one thing that I couldn't say on this. That was like one of my rules. I couldn't name names, so I'm not gonna.
Could you say a team?
Yeah.
So I don't hear a lot of it. Like I don't think that there is one team that does it more than the next. I think that I'll say this. I think the cameras do a really good job of finding it. So I think like whatever the team you think it is probably is it. Because they're all over it, man. Like they are all. I don't even hear some of the stuff that they get. So
wow, really? That's
interesting.
They're all over. The one thing that I will say is that I've had some disagreements with some players, but they're all great. It's not it's not like a situation where it's like we're gonna carry this into next week.
Sure.
It's just like, all right, we disagreed, game's over, we're done with it now.
Right.
So I think that's great. I think it's super professional of the players. I think they do a great job with that, even though it's on some level their livelihoods out there. But I think the league as a whole has done a tremendous job with that. I didn't ref in the MLL, but everyone that I talked to that experienced that league says this league is head and shoulders above, and I think that the players have really stepped it up to match that level of professionalism as well.
100%.
Damn, well said.
How's that for an answer, fellas?
That was great.
Yeah, that was really good. That was really good.
For not naming a player, that was a really good answer.
Yeah, because I kind of feel like you did name a player, but we can talk about
a few players.
We can talk about that. That's interesting that you don't catch as much as I'm sure the cameras do, but that's what I think Asher and Jake Pulver, when they came on, they both said the camera work that the PLL does and what they catch through a whole weekend is like really amazing. So
there's like 80 employees. We were at the All-Star game doing our pregame walkthrough, and I'm looking around. And I'm like, there's like 50 people here.
Wow.
Like, what are they doing? You know, their interns would like
Growing the game, man. Growing the game.
It's unbelievable.
We have something to talk about. I need this, man.
Yeah, and I'm trying to hide. Like, I just they're like behind me in the coin flip. I'm like, just go over there. Like, I can just tell me to move, and I'll move.
They need the content, man.
I promise you, I don't want to be out here. You're not looking for me.
That's what makes the PLL so great. Tell us a little bit about the All-Star game. Curious about that. Good
Yeah,
time?
it was Louisville packed house.
Yeah.
Such a cool venue. I think that's like that's another thing that I think the NCAA needs to dial in is just go to a venue that you're gonna fill.
Yep.
Like stop the, like I was in Baltimore in 2004 when they had 60,000 or whatever they did, and they haven't had anything near it since.
Yeah.
And the other, I mean, I'm going to get on a bit of a soapbox here, but like if you look at that weekend, I think it was Syracuse, Hopkins, Navy, and maybe Maryland. I don't remember who the fourth team was, but it was 4 teams that traveled exceptionally well. Like I think the entire city of Syracuse was in the stadium on that day.
For sure.
And so, like in order to replicate that, like the stars have to align on the team side, which with the parity in Division I now, that's probably never going to happen again.
Sure.
And on that day, I mean, again, I think it was Maryland, Hopkins, and Navy. So you had 3 teams in Baltimore
Wow.
from the greater Baltimore area. So I think we just need to stop that. I think the PLL does a tremendous job of finding venues that they can fill.
Yep.
Because the environment's awesome. Like we were looking around during the fastest shot, and the place was absolutely mobbed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fastest shot was the craziest thing I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
Like
wild.
not the stick thing, which is even more insane to me, but the way that he shot and then landed, like I was like, you practiced that,
Yeah.
which is crazy. Like you definitely looked into like, how can I shoot this thing as hard as I freaking can?
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, absolutely wild.
Yeah.
Absolutely wild.
I think this Charlotte, was it American Legion? Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
That was a blast. I mean, it was so fun. And even Audi up here in DC, I think it's a soccer stadium. So I think it's like a perfect amount. It feels packed, it's loud. We can actually hear you guys sometimes, you making calls. So I think that's definitely the way forward for sure.
Yeah, and the PLL does, they get it. They do. And that was kind of like one of the things they started from the beginning was like taking advantage of these smaller soccer stadiums that can really bring a good experience. The Louisville crowd, that was impressive. That was great.
Yeah.
That's a really cool spot too. That I've never been down there to Louisville. Went to the Louisville Slugger Factory.
Wow.
Nice.
That was a pretty cool experience.
That's really cool. Wasn't that like the Louisville's team soccer stadium?
Yeah. So men's and women's soccer, they have a complex there that's like in the shadow of the football stadium, which is massive.
Sure.
Real cool though. Real
Wow.
cool. Played a little bit of golf on Friday, which was nice. They got some nice courses down there, so it's good.
How's the golf game, man? Gotta ask that.
Oh, not good. I just started playing. I just started like taking it seriously playing.
Yeah.
And so I'm if my wedges are on, I can't get off the tee. If I can get off the tee, I mean, you might as well hang an umbrella.
Speaking of the choir, man.
Yeah, jeez. Oh my god.
We played around before Charlotte. We played a couple rounds before we went to the PLL game. So that's where I saw your brother.
Where'd you play?
Good to see him. Oh, what was the first place we played? You guys remember?
Oh, jeez.
No.
Oh, it was a guy's name.
Yeah, because then we played this small like par 3 course.
Sifford?
That's across from UNCC.
No, I don't even know that one. Sifford,
like the par 3 one.
Yeah, that was the par 3 one. That was
Charles T. Myers.
Charles T. Myers. That was it.
Yeah, Sifford's the other one.
Logan's suggestion. So take it with
that was a fun course.
Oh, it was great.
Do you guys follow RNG on Instagram? Have you seen this guy?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
One of the best guys on Instagram.
He's hilarious.
He's so fun.
Once they get him on an actual tournament, I think we're gonna win as golf fans. 100%. Yeah, 100%. Wow, that is nuts. You guys have any more questions for Danny here before we let him go?
Not really.
Who do you think is going to win the championship? No, I'm just kidding.
You can't say that. Yeah,
You're the favorite team,
man.
No favorite team.
He's not allowed to have a favorite. That would be hilarious though if he did.
I think it's I think that your job is so much dependent on your like conditioning. And it makes sense hearing you say it. But for me, I was thinking about like rule changes and trying to get around players doing sketchy things, but really it's just being in the right place at the right time. So that's interesting.
Yeah, and then knowing what to pass on is like I think that's the other thing that like people don't realize is like we don't miss it. Like we just didn't call it.
Oh,
And so like whether like whether you understand why we didn't call it or not, like that's fine. But very rarely, except for the one big miss that we talked about before we went live here, very rarely do we miss.
Yeah, I won't say his name. I have a particular player on my team that likes to get around his defender, then hook with his off arm. And I'm always waiting for you guys to call it. I'm like, come on, like, but it never gets. But I like it. I like it.
You should start calling it more.
Yeah, you should.
Yo, don't call it. Don't call it.
We let that go.
I'm gonna get my boy in trouble.
I was in San Diego for the World Games, and we let a little bit of that go too. But it's all in good fun.
Absolutely.
Goals put fans in the seats, you know?
That's right. That's what I'm saying. You guys know what's going to get attendance up.
Archer's Water Dogs last week, like 19-18. Like I'm going to watch that again. Like that game was amazing. That was so fun to watch. So the good of the game, for the good of the game. I think we're all good, boys.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks again for Danny for joining us here tonight. We really appreciate the time. We'll be sure to keep an eye on you on the field next weekend.
Yeah, fellas, thanks for having me. Next time you're in Charlotte, let me know. I'll get us on a course, a good one.
Hell yeah.
Absolutely too.
And we can see who can shoot the worst.
Yeah. All right.
All right. Thanks, man.
All right, fellas. Thank you.